well, the other thing that I thought of when you and Erica were talking, and I think Brian and as well as Vinny, I was thinking about how there was a time in my life, it's probably in my 20s, where I thought I was bulletproof. Like nothing can hurt me. Everything is going to be everything. And I found out the first time I got my, as an adult, I really got, one of the first instances I got my feelings hurt. And I'm like, I am not bulletproof. And it's a realization that you come to. And of course, if you're even remotely some kind of smart, I think we all are, you start to make adjustments. You start to take those experiences and you start to, log them as you go through your life, so to speak. But yeah, so that's something that, like I said, I practice it pretty much in any interaction that I have.
Don't feel bad. My ex-husband, who we have a business together still, and he will sometimes say he'll be at his computer and I'll be maybe at another table doing something on my computer, and I'll say something, and then he'll look up, he'll say, "What? That's okay. That's because." I think over the years he's just learned. I really just don't even want to know, because then she's gonna take me on a rabbit trail of that's just gonna be illogical. So you learned and he learned. I think at one point all men who have lived with a woman learned when you want to say the question why, and when, even if you said why, is it really gonna lead to someplace that's gonna make sense? So protect your peace.
Well, Erica, with that being said, clearly one of the bigger skills that you have to really tap into that point is to be able to, if you're listening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you have to be listening. Yeah. And I think that, and I almost, let me go sidebar just for 1 second, just for 1 second. I don't think a lot of men listen. There's a segment of us that do not listen because we believe that we're authorities. That is the problem in society that really ticks me off, is that the way society is set up, it puts the man in the authority chair, and damn it, we just are not the authorities on everything. Okay. I'm saying, at least for myself, I'm going to say that I am not the authority on everything. There are certain things, yes, I believe I'm the authority on, but there's a lot of things, and I say a lot, I underline a lot, that we are not the authority. Certain things we are learning on the fly and in real time. And I think that's important that gets out there. I think it needs to be said, and I think it needs to be absorbed and become a part of your day in and day out. One of your tools in your toolbox is, we are not the authority.
It's good when guys find a woman who is authority in something that they're not, and then that way they can help each other, instead of just finding somebody who knows what you know. Finding somebody who knows something that can bring something to your life is good.
That's another podcast, right?
Yeah, that's a whole other episode.
Hey,
so Vince, go ahead. What is it you were going to share there?
So one of the things you were talking about, and Chris alluded to, that whole listening thing, and I would definitely say more recently than not, the whole idea of having that conversation with whatever your spouse or your partner or business partner or whatnot, but all too often, and it was more recently than not, especially around the statement mansplaining. Mm-hmm. That's something where I would say only until maybe in the last decade have I truly understood. And of course I've heard the term, but it wasn't until I distinctly remember exactly the scenario, and once you see it, you can't unsee it now. And then I'm just sitting there in conversations and meetings, etc., and I'm just watching it go, and I'm like, wow, this is so wild. And I just kind of chuckle. I'm just like, oh my goodness, I feel so bad now as a man. I feel like I should say I'm so sorry. Like I apologize. But going back to what Chris said on listening, that piece is also such a muscle we have to really learn, because so quick in my own experience too is as I'm listening, I'm not actively listening, and I'm always coming up with like a response. But sometimes you just gotta let it go and not have a response. And that's another piece too from a man's perspective. Well, not just men, but the whole idea that if you don't have a response, or it's not witty, or it's not this, it's a challenge to your ego, or you don't have a voice or whatnot. And that goes back to the whole self-reflection piece too. Just realizing you don't have to be always talking.
Yeah,
that part. So I want to chime in there. I want to actually go back and challenge Chris's position a little bit about being the authoritative figure, and not to say that is not relevant, but I think from a man's chair, we, or call it ego, some other things, we get really self-absorbed into feeling that I am king kind of thing. So I think a lot of times we talk about not listening, or that we don't listen well. I agree that we are not listening at the level we should be listening. But what it is, in my opinion, is we are so self-absorbed. My time is so valuable. I'm so busy. I have so much on my plate. What are you saying? Get it out. Okay, yeah. Here's your solution. Boom, let's move forward. So it's not that we're not listening, but we are not listening at the level I think we need to be listening, because we are so self-centered and absorbed within what's going on in our universe and what's spinning in our world, and why that's important and why I'm important, and all of that piece. So yes, there's some authority. I agree with you on that. But I also think a lot of it is just good old fashions, being self-absorbed and having that ego, and my time is valuable. And what are you talking about? And that's not even relevant to me. So let me get to a solution for your little issue really quick, and so I can move on to the next thing, kind of thing. So
I think that's fair. Yeah.
That's just a perspective that I see, and from some of the experiences that I've gone through.
I think that's great. Like, for example, if there's something going on with my daughter, who's now, I know she's in college, but I would always be very to the point. Like, this is what's going on. This is, what I've seen. This is what, but 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, and then when I'm conferring with her father about something, and we get right to he'll give his opinion like that. And it's very quick. Like you just mentioned, I guess this is my first time thinking of it like that. But if there's other situations that's not related to our daughter, I'm going every which way with the conversation. I'm going every which way. I'm going up the hill. I'm going around the mountains, do the bend. And so he's sitting there like, whoo, which I guess is connected to what you're saying. He's like, oh, where's this story going? And what is the point? When are we going to get to the end of the story? And that's, I think maybe as women, we need to be mindful of that. In all situations, not just situations with kids. Like, this is the issue, blank, blank, blank. What should we do? I think this. What do you think? And then I automatically get his support. I could tell my ex-husband, I'm really tired. This organization has something at 8 a.m. She's not getting up. I really want to go to bed too, but I think that it's going to go back to bed. And he's like, put her on the phone. Go get her and put her on the phone right now. We're the parents. So it's like immediate solution. But if there's something else, up and down, around the bend.
Chris,
and then blame y'all for not listening.
Chris, what thoughts do you have there? It looks like you have something on your mind. What would you like to share?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we talk about the self-reflection piece. You talk about the emotional intelligence. I think the thing that comes to mind for me right out of the gates is, and there's layers to this thing. I mean, there is what I have come to learn and have come to adopt in how I operate. I say that how I operate is there's different ways to approach different things. Sometimes an immediate response it warrants it, and sometimes it's cut and dried. So there's really not much room for negotiations, let's say. But in a lot of situations, you have to start delving into the layers of what it is that's going on, whatever the particular situation is. Is there a financial component to it? Is there a safety component to it? what's going to be the outcome? What's going to be the desired outcome? So I think a lot of these things have to factor this in, and that's where the listening piece comes in, where you've got to sit and take a couple minutes. And I think, Vinny, you were talking about not actively listening. I think that is definitely something that we can all probably say at some point or another that we're guilty of through the daily process. I'm not listening actively because I'm solution orientated, which I think a lot of us folks that are high level people, we're solution oriented. That's how we're trained. That's how we're taught. That's how we're conditioned. And that isn't always the best way. And that's where the real work comes to play, is that you've got to sit there and it's almost on the fly most of the times to try to figure out what tool am I pulling out of my bag of tricks that's going to be best suited for this particular situation. And that's where the thought-provoking part of it comes into play, is that you've got to literally, engage that thought muscle. And because I'm always looking for the best outcome. I mean, that's how I'm trying to driven. I'm looking for the best outcome. I am now conditioning myself to look out for the best outcome for whoever I'm dealing with. But I'm also telling myself there has to be a little something in this for me as well. You know what I mean? I deserve to get something out of this too. And it's definitely never monetary, but just from some emotional satisfaction, so that's what drives me.
So it's funny, as you guys are talking about this and the whole idea, I just think about sometimes, especially when you think about some of the other philosophies, and I'm thinking more of the Zen side, the Buddhist side, it's not about the outcome. It's not about getting to the end of it. It's about the journey. And how do you embrace the journey? How do you be present? I mean, that's really what, when you talk about listening, etc., it's like, how present are you? And sometimes it's okay just to be okay with not feeling like you're on a path or you've got the answers, And so I definitely feel like, as you can embrace to see the journey, as you can kind of step back and say, what's the lesson behind all this, and sometimes, as we all know, and maybe you, Erica, more than most of us as a lawyer, but I feel like I've come to embrace the uncomfortable pauses, where it's like, when I'm in a room or I'm talking and I'm like, I actually kind of enjoy that awkward silence where you feel like you're supposed to have the conversation in there, but then you don't. And I'm like, I'm enjoying this. Like, this is, and you watch the other person where just like, they're like, oh, I got to say something.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I mean, I want to jump in there too, because I want to go back to something Chris was saying. It kind of ties into what you were just saying about the journey of it versus the outcome. And Chris used the term, we actively listening, and we always hear that. I want to take that or add a level on it, I guess probably the best way to say it. And that says to start to develop the skill of actively feeling. And the reason I say that is a lot of the times when someone is sharing whatever it is that's going on, they're many times going to be coming from a place of feeling. And Chris said, is it a security thing? Is it this? Is it that? So for them, there's an emotional feeling type reason that they are saying what they're saying, expressing their point of view and where it's coming from. And if you don't also pay attention to it, or at least try to tap into where those feelings are, you're actually missing part of the message, because all of what they're really expressing is not necessarily going to come through in words, if that makes sense to you. So you do have to not only be actively listening, I think, but also actively seeking to feel where their motivators are and where the things are coming from. So again, another layer to the complexity of communication, but it all does play into it, just as Vinny was just saying a minute ago about sometimes when the room is awkward because there is silence. There is a feeling associated with that because nothing's being said, but that is what I'm talking about. There's a feeling that's part of the whole thing.